Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hey, Rob Browne here with you on this Monday morning. We are here for the next couple of hours. Got a great show in store for you. Going to kick off, go down to Savannah and talk with our good friend Ben Troupe, ESPN Coastal. Ben's also on the Buddy Martin Show a lot, which is on Facebook Monday through Thursday, 9 p.m. Eastern, Facebook, Twitter, all over the place. Great show. Franz Beard's on there with him as well. Second segment this morning, Jake Wimberly is going to check in with us again from ESPN 105.9, the afternoon drive down in Jackson, Mississippi. And Jake has put together the Hourglass. He's now released 2 batches of data on college football. It breaks down recruiting, a lot of analytics, how you do wide receivers, quarterbacks, offensive linemen, possibility of wins, numbers, championship likelihood, and all. We're going to get into that as well. I'm looking forward to getting Ben to meet with Jake here on the show today. Top of hour number 2, along with Frank Duffy, perhaps the most interesting 2 men in the world. Franz Beard, GatorVetMedia.com, checks in with his daily thoughts, his final pithy thoughts as well. Great stuff, as always, from Franz. And in the fourth segment, Wess Moore, ESPN 103.7 The Buzz in Little Rock, checks in. The Hogs got the sweep at Duty Noble Field in Starkville. Not an easy accomplishment against the team that was the national champion just 2 years ago. And bottom line, I'll tell you, Ole Miss won it last year. And Mississippi State and Ole Miss are 6th and 7th in the SEC West. There is no room to hide in the SEC, toughest league in America. Hey, 6 days a week, at least 25 shows a month, 50 hours plus a month of content. You can follow us on all social media platforms like Twitter at Sidelines_live. Proud to be associated with you, all of our sponsors, all of our great listeners, and folks like Ben Troupe. I'm gonna tell you what. Last week, Ben, we had Franz on, and I went to him and I caught him eating breakfast. Was it Franz? Franz on the show, I think, but I'm sure that he was reading when I caught him. But how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good, man. And that sounds just like Franz. Every time he comes on with me and Buddy Franz, listen, Franz doing something. He's doing something in the background. Somebody's calling his home phone while he's on. He drink. And the thing is, you know how like you do something so much that to you is like what? Like Buddy be looking at Franz like, Franz, you know you drinking something, right? Franz like, yeah, because I'm thirsty. The show is the show is about as authentic as it gets because obviously Franz and but I told Buddy and Franz what you said last week about the Socrates and the Aristotle and the Plato. Yeah. Franz like, wait a minute, which one am I?
Hey, I just, you know what? In fact, I'm not sure how old Socrates, Plato, Aristotle, but I know they all came one after the other. And it was just the 3 of y'all together on the show is something really special. Buddy was on the show with us Saturday, had a lot of talk about the Derby. He wrote a really good article in his column about Billy Napier and the patience of fans and all. And what I wanted to do, say something real quick about one of our friends on the show who's been on several times, Norman Jetmanson. He and David Cruz, April of last year, just a little over a year ago, released a documentary called Sewanee 1899 about Sewanee's historic 5 wins in a 6-day period in 1899. They won on the road at Texas, at Texas A&M, at Tulane, at LSU, and then they went to Memphis and played Ole Miss at Crump Stadium. Well, it wasn't Crump Stadium then, but they beat Ole Miss 5 games in 6 days. They have been nominated for what they call the Regional Emmy for Best Historical Documentaries. Fingers crossed. Now, we've hired a marketing director now for Sidelines, Gary Linderman, our friend I've known for a long time, who's won 2 Emmys. Now, I hadn't won an Emmy yet, Ben. You may have won an Emmy, but usually if you've won an Emmy, you're pretty damn good. But that is a cool documentary, Ben, about Sewanee. I'm actually going to mail you one. Text me where you want it to be sent, I'll mail you one after the show. I've got several of the DVDs out there in my F-150, which you can get at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. But Ben, throw some things at you. I did some research last night. We'll throw some numbers at you. Since 1962, there have been 23 different teams to win the national championship in football. When we went to the BCS in 1998 through 2013, you had 11 different teams win a national championship with the BCS. We went to the college football playoff in 2014. We've had 5 different teams win it. And those would be Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, and LSU. So 3 SECs, 1 ACC, and 1 Big Ten. Since 1970, when Ohio State, Nebraska, and Texas tied for the national championship, we've only had 2.5 teams from the Big Ten win the national championship. And we've had, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, like 20 SEC teams win it all. What does that tell you about quality of play, strength of schedule? Where do you go from there?
I think it's focus. I think when you think about the South, taking nothing away from the Midwest, football is so ingrained in the Southeast. It's something that, that's I got introduced to baseball from my grandfather. Either your grandfather will introduce you to baseball, football, or fishing, or all 3. Yeah. And I think when you think about football in the South, it becomes more of a badge of honor to say, man, we got the best football players in the country. That's taking nothing away from, when you see, why would a Bryce Young, come across the country to play at Alabama? Because they can see it, that the brand is so big, but it's taking nothing away from, other parts of the country. I mean, California, you talk about, Texas and those type of places, but when it comes to the South, you know how it is. Rob. We're very, 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 very adamant on what we do the best at, and we don't mind telling you. We don't mind saying, look, when it comes to football, the SEC is going to have the most players drafted in the draft every year from as long as the draft continues to go on, because there's such a focus on it. Bigger, faster, stronger is a real thing. In the South, if you got any kind of size on you, they saying, "Man, you play football?" They ain't saying, "What sport do you play?" They saying, "Do you play football?" Yeah, you got an Aaron Judge out there who looks like he should be playing for the Knicks more than playing for the Yankees, but it's just a focus. And the proof is in the pudding. I mean, I think sometimes when we get to talking about why football is so incredible in the South is because, man, it's ingrained in us. What are you doing on Sundays? You going to church? I'm going to church and I'm going to the early service because I want to watch my team after the game. What are you doing on Saturday? College football. Like, that's it. Yeah. Like, and as a guy that got in, blessed to be a part of this SEC football, ACC football, Sun Belt football, Big East football, it's incredible because it's so much variety. It's so many good players in so many different conferences. I mean, Osiris Torrance, yes, he went the second round coming from the University of Florida. To me, he was the best guard in the country when he was at Louisiana. That's South. So and we always say, how far do the South go? Texas, yes. Texas is a part of the South. New Mexico is not. New Mexico is right beside Texas. It is not. Arkansas, yes, that is the South. Anywhere to where, I say this. My grandma say, Grandma, how do you know if you Southern? Do you put sugar in your tea? What? Do you put sugar in it? Yes, you are Southern. Because if you go up north, they will give you iced tea. No sugar in it. And you looking at the waitress or the waiter like, hey, man, what is this? This is just cold, dirty water. No, I need sugar in mine. And I need to see it kind of brewing at the bottom and let me stir it up. But it's a way of life, and that's not going to change. That's not taken away from the fact that the sport that's not age-centric is golf, maybe tennis. Yeah. But when it comes to football, Rob, it's a different. We got a disease, man. That's what we used to say on the show, man. We have been infected. We go to the doctor. Doctor say, yes, you have been diagnosed with something the hell's wrong with you. You love college football, And you like, and there is no cure for this. There isn't. No. The older you get, the stories get better, the memories get better, the players get better. Yeah. And I'm at the Black Sports Biz Symposium, man, and they go Ronnie Browne walking around, and these young people have no clue. That's football royalty.
Yeah.
Right there. But I just think that it's the stories that's attached to the players. And like I said, I respect every single football player, NAIA, Ivy League, HBCUs, D2s. But it's something about saying, they're going to say this. Did you play football? Where did you play football?
Yeah.
Where's you play at? And if it's any team in the South, they start saying, man, y'all cats in the South, oh, yeah, man. Because most guys up north don't have spring football because of the weather and the cold. So they get a culture shock. Even in high school, when they come down here, they're saying, Lane Kiffin said it the best when he's at Tennessee. He said, football never ends in the SEC. No, football never ends in the South. Yeah. That's not just, University of Tennessee. So I love it. Like I said, I got a son that plays. I would never, ever put any pressure on him to try to do it. I mean, he got the bug by himself. But you know how it is, Rob? You don't get enough of Auburn football. And the one thing Rob Browne is going to do the best is, I'm going to let you say what you're going to say about Auburn. But if you want to dive into the tradition, we can do this, Alabama. We can do this, Arkansas. That's what I like the most is you start defending your team like a family member. Like, listen, Auburn can have, Alabama can laugh, LSU can laugh, Texas A&M, what y'all laughing about? Yeah. Arkansas, what y'all laughing about? Mississippi State. So that's the fun part is, yes, Georgia got back-to-back national championships on their mind. Hey, Ben, you can't talk about us anymore. No, you finally get to sit at the big boy table. You've been sitting at the little kid table for so long. Come on over here and eat some real grown-up food and stop eating that mac and cheese out the box. I'm going to talk trash. No matter what, and I respect everybody, but come on, man. Kirby Smart, incredible coach. Georgia's Georgia. But at the end of the day, I love playing football. I love being from the state of Georgia, playing college football in the state of Florida, getting drafted by Tennessee. I'm a country boy. The only thing I had to deal with was get used to Central Time, and I'm still bad with it now. But I have gotten a little better. But yeah, Rob, man, college. Southern football in the South. It's like fried chicken. I was up north and I took the chicken right and I just pulled the skin off. I said, this ain't fried chicken. Fried chicken, this tin be stuck to it, man. This stuff is like you take the knife and get a little sound. They said, no, this is deep fried Southern chicken. I said, no, sir. I can see the guy making it in the back. He just dipped this thing in some buttermilk. I ain't see no spice or nothing. But yeah, my college football, Southern football, whether it's Pop Warner, middle school, high school, college, pro. To me, it don't get no better, and it's only getting better. And I'm not one of those in my time. We had the best era. That's that basketball stuff. No, I had my time when it was my time, and I'm looking forward to seeing the Anthony Rich. And shout out to John Mechie, man, who overcame Chancellor and is gonna get a chance to play for the Houston Texans. Rooting for that guy. He's gonna be held for them AFC South defenses, by the way.
Yeah. No, look, what you just said just described everything that we love about the South. By the way, we're watching Guy Fieri, however you pronounce his name.
With the spike hair, yes.
Firehead is what everybody calls him. But he's called it Drive-Ins, Dives, and Diners. Now, they were in Savannah on one of the episodes. We watched kind of a binge watch Saturday night, but it was not Mrs. Wilkes. It was called maybe Sister Souls.
Yes, yes.
Oh my God, Ben, that's food porn. Okay,
Guy Fieri has the best job. When people say, Rob, when you ask you what you want to do, you was growing up, I said, well, I didn't know I could be a food tester. I could get in my Camaro and we could drive around. And listen, they pay me to test food. What they pay me to go. Oh man, you know how easy it is to say, I can taste the onions and the peppers. Yeah, everything you just saw me put in it. Oh, I want to taste meatloaf. Or these are some of the best places in the country. I'm like, Man versus Food, Guy Fieri, these type of shows. That's what we were supposed to. Hey, man, what are you? I'm a food tester. I take my job real serious. I have to do it every other day. No, I get to go in the back and meet the chef that actually cooking my steak.
Oh yeah.
Come on, how hard? But Guy Fieri, man, he has restaurants up in New York. And listen, if Guy Fieri say your food is good, people are trying. Yeah. I heard that business booms once he leaves.
Oh yeah, he is. I just don't know how he doesn't weigh 500 pounds. I hope we don't see him on my 600-pound life. But let me tell you something. We've got the Win Arkansas barbecue contest, and that is going to be coming up. I'm sitting here thinking June 9th and 10th. I think it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we've got a team in there from the Cherry Farm. Our name is "Ooh That Smell," a line from the Skinnerd song. The smell of pork around you. That's what but we're going to be doing a brisket, chicken, shoulder, and ribs, and then an anything but category. So we got some cool ideas. We were kind of going over them, Audrey and MJ and I, Saturday night. But, you talk about food, and then you get some good drinks, maybe some people together. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's football in the South, and you're right. We're going to go to a break here in about a minute, but I want to throw something at you. I'm with you. I respect the football players. I say D1, D2, D3. When you meet those people that have gone through that, and athletes, just whatever sport, who did it for 4 or 5 years, and they're in the workforce doing whatever they do. They may be an analyst on the strategies desk at an investment firm like what we do. They could be an attorney. They could be a doctor. They could be in radio or TV. Could be, selling, windows or whatever. They learned how to work their ass off, work with people that they never met in their lives, and learned how to set goals. I watched a great speech. I listen to a lot when I'm out riding on my bike or whatever. Denzel Washington gave a great speech. He said, look, dreams without goals are just dreams, and they'll lead to a hell of a lot of disappointment in your life if there's no structure or no follow through. And I love your story. You kept working, going to all the workouts, did everything you were supposed to do. And when they called your number to run through the tunnel at Ben Hill Griffin Stadium, you were ready. But if you had not done that, you wouldn't have been ready. And your life would have been probably different. I don't know maybe you might be a lawyer. I don't know. But sports changes your life. We're going to be right back. Mondays, Sidelines kickoff right after this quick. Ben, I got to ask you, 2002, you were on that Florida team. Auburn's playing down in the swamp. Cadillac Williams breaks his tibia, and Ronnie Browne comes in and I believe ran for 167 yards in that game. Late in the game, I think it was 4th down inside their own 20. Florida goes for it, and Auburn's defense holds them. And then Damon Duvall out of Chattanooga Red Banks High School, Auburn's kicker, misses what looked almost like an extra point field goal. It goes to overtime. Florida wins. Oh, my. You remember that game?
I did. And what was crazy about 2002, you talk about how different of a world we was in. 2001, we at Auburn, ranked number 1 in the country.
Yeah.
Played Auburn at night. That stadium is rocking.
Yes.
And the thing was, it came down to a field goal for us to beat them. And we missed the field goal. Auburn goes on and beats us. You fast forward to 2002, Steve Spurrier's with the Washington Redskins. We get this guy named Ron Zook, who used to be the defensive coordinator or defensive back coach when they was winning national championship in '96. Auburn comes in, obviously the better team, and more confident because they've already beat us a year before. 2001, they called a field goal block team on. And, when they call the field goal block team, we think, oh, we big bad Florida. We number 1. We're going to block it. But no one's there but the field goal block team. We don't block it. They keep the field goal. They win it. Fast forward to 2002. Here we go again. I think it's 2020 again. It's like, here we go. They're about to do it. Now, this time, they said field goal block team. The whole team is around the field goal block team. You can hear everything the special team coordinator is saying. Man, when the snap goes up, it was so quiet in there. Even the Auburn fans was quiet. You can hear a pin drop. You know how you see your head goes to the left and it just goes up. We look up. Big Bobby McCray gets his big paw up there and blocks it. We go to overtime. Taylor Jacobs scores a touchdown against Carlos Rogers, my teammate from high school, and we stop him in overtime. I think that's the only overtime game I've ever been a part of.
Yeah,
it's one of those things to where after the game, Carlos Rogers comes up to me. He's like, "Man, y'all all right?" Because what he was saying is like, "Y'all Florida, like we, yes, we hope to beat y'all, but." There's a certain level of expectation that comes when you play at certain schools.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm super duper proud of the player Carlos became, winning the Thorpe Award, one of the things he's done. But those memories is what I'm talking about, Rob. It's as my grandma would say, God don't give you do-overs, he give you do-betters. Right? He don't give you a do-over. You get a do-better. We got a chance to have a do-better in 2002. Here we are, runs. Now, if we lose, Tuberville and them, hey, they doing their thing. The only SEC school to go undefeated in 2004 to not even go to the national championship. I think.
Yeah.
I will say that at the end, undefeated in the SEC deserves to go to the national championship, but that's another time for another day. That game was so crazy back and forth because Carlos Dansby, Carlos Rogers, Cadillac Williams gets hurt. Ronnie Browne, that's not a good thing. It's like Cadillac got hurt. It's like 3rd and 1.
Yeah.
Everybody knows it's a run. Man, some kind of way, Ronnie jumped through the line. Next thing you know, he's running down the field like 60 up. And I knew people like, hey man, did you know Ronnie Browne was like, hell yeah, Ronnie Browne been that good since he came out. Since they said it's a boy. And I think the thing about him is that's another thing. Ronnie Browne was the 2nd overall pick in 2004.
Yep.
2005. Cadillac was the number 5.
Yeah.
And Cadillac was a starter.
Yeah.
Backup, if you want to call him that.
Yeah.
And at one point, they had Brandon Jacobs as the 3rd back. So yeah, that's where the respect level came from. As Ron Zook would tell us, if you get caught up in the wins and the losses, you're gonna miss what football is trying to show you. Because everybody, you win, you play long enough, you're gonna win some games, should have lost some games, should have won. You thank God for the opportunity to run out there. He said, let the scoreboard take care of itself. He said, we had a sideline camp. If he caught you looking at the scoreboard, he is going to call you out because he goes, you a front runner. You know how easy it is to come to practice, to come to play when you winning. I want to see who you are when you're losing. And like I said, when it comes to them Auburn boys, man, they're good enough to beat anybody they play. I don't care what's going on. I had a chance to Gene Chiswick had a chance to interview him at SC Media Days. And this is when I first got in the media. And we sitting there, and he's in front of me doing Radio Row. He's talking about it. He stands up, and my the host of the show, Kevin Thomas, goes, "Hey man, you got to interview Gene Chiswick." And I go, when? He goes, right now. And Gene Chiswick is literally sitting down in front of me, and I go, and I look. This is my welcome to radio moment. I look at Kevin, I look at Gene and go, "How you doing, Coach? How you doing?" I said, "Welcome back to 3 and I was sitting here with Gene Chiswick. I said, "Coach, this is what I said. How does a man go from winning the national championship with a guy like Cam Newton 2 years later losing his job?" He goes, "Ben, that's called the game of football." And the thing is, when I get done, Kevin goes, "Man, I would have never asked him that." I said, "Look, man, I'm gonna ask. It is my job to ask, great questions that not just I want to know, but fans want to know." But it was great, man. Auburn is all, Taquio Spikes and Carlos Dan. The list just goes on and on. Listen, we both orange and blue. They just got that dark navy blue, almost black looking blue, and we got the royal blue. But hey, man, one thing about the Auburn Tigers is they cannot stand Alabama. Don't bring up Alabama and Auburn. And Auburn is real similar to Gainesville. If you take away University, you take away Auburn, you take away Florida, you ain't stopping. You're stopping to get some gas. Yeah. But other than that, what's the guy from Alabama that said he poisoned them trees? He did not know what he was saying. He better. The fact that he can still live on planet Earth is amazing, because I don't think the people say what that might have been outside the one lady. That might have been Paul Feinbaum's most famous moment. Like, did you hear what he just said?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's how deep. That's how deep. I don't know who got the most heated rivalry. I can't say, because Army Navy is heated. But Alabama, Auburn, they shut down the state. The state is shut down. And then when he said that, I said, dude, you admitting to a felony on live radio.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you, social media ain't what it was like it is now. He would have had to leave. That would be good for him.
I think he died a couple of years ago. Had 6 trustees from the prison had to take him to his grave. That guy was, as Pat Dye said when asked, is Harvey Updike typical of all Alabama fans? And Coach Dye said no. Harvey Updike is typical of somebody with a miserable life. And but you're right. And I'll tell you something. I got to ask you. Got a question from a Tennessee fan over here. Charlie Bradshaw over in Knoxville, Tennessee says, Ben, what's your greatest memory of playing at Neyland Stadium? And is it as loud on the field as a player as it seems like it is to us in the stands? 102,000 rising to their feet on the banks of the Tennessee River here at Neyland Stadium. And in just a few moments, the Pride of the Southland Band will come out and form a giant T. And then the football. Here come the Volunteers. It's football time in Tennessee, John Ward. But talk about some great memories of, because that, as a road trip, as an Auburn fan, that's the greatest. It's just something about the Tennessee River and Neyland. A lot of tradition there. Not that y'all don't have it, and Auburn and Alabama don't have it, but damn, that's a cool place.
It is. My favorite memory was the catch, no catch. My freshman year was 2000. That's when Jabbar Gaffney caught it, didn't catch it in their end zone, and that whoever that ref was, he definitely ran. After the game was over, he's running back to wherever the ref locker room is. But the thing about it is that you can appreciate as a player, even though you're in hostile territory. Tennessee is something to see, man. Like it is. I mean, when they saying sick 'em, Smokey. And then the whole crowd, they do this thing. The crowd like a growl at you. They do this little, like they trying to call Smokey but
it's incredible.
You that's the pageantry of it. That's the part that you saying to yourself, I'm not supposed to be enjoying these fans, but yeah, you are. Like, really? Yeah. Like, just because you got on orange and blue don't mean you can't appreciate. Like, when are you gonna get 100,000 people for the same thing? We all here for one common cause, right? Or that go Philip Fulmer. Now, 2002, Reggie White, may rest in peace. He was at the game and it was raining, and Ron Zook used to coach at Tennessee, and what they did was they was introducing the starting lineup, and they introduced the head coach, and they said the head coach Ron Zook, when he heard them mess up his name, he was livid. He said, "Wait a minute, did you hear what the?" Mind you, we ain't worried about the radio announcer or the announcer, and to him. He was like, I wish I could go over and just fight Philip Fulmer right now. So I want to fight him. Now, mind you, if he's not going to do it. If Ron runs on the field and just sucker punches, it would have been the greatest memory of Florida Tennessee. Now the game is going to be postponed, but we just, I'm looking for anybody smaller than me. I'm not looking for Albert Haynesworth and John Henderson and them, Al Wilson. Y'all going with that, but them DBs. Oh, I'm grabbing them. I'm grabbing all them. The other tight ends. But Tennessee is like, I didn't play. I heard how big Michigan is. Like, I heard that Michigan is like huge, the big house, whatever.
Yeah.
Tennessee is crazy. Like, because when you're going in there, you're going, because you first going as a player, ain't nobody in there yet. You say, this stadium is huge. And you're going, ain't no way they're going to fill up all these seats. Like, there's no way. And then they say, that little creamsicle orange starts coming in.
Yeah.
It's coming in, and they go to checkerboard, and they go smoking. And next thing you know, you saying only college can get somebody to wear this kind of orange. Only college can get you to go out and pay your money. Give me the creamsicle. They go to overalls, and they go what that's where the respect is built when you say the fans are college football. Like they showing up, and this is what fans do, right? So. The fans is close enough to where you can hear them. Mm-hmm. If you better hope you're getting some play, you better hope you get in the game because they're gonna start. What's wrong with you? They gonna let you in the game. They're gonna and you start going back and forth with the fans. And the thing is, when people say, "Do fans have the right to do so?" I think they do. Now there is a line, and I get it, But football, I said, man, I paid it. Listen, I'm not talking trash to him because he got on a Florida jersey. I'm talking trash because it's 100 degrees out here, and I got to sit here for 3.5. Well, it used to be 3 hours. Now it take 4 hours with these commercials. But
I know
it's always been great. I mean, you know, they come out there, they got their little they got their little sand. You know, you got the. Did I want to beat up the little smoky dog, the little fake one, the little mascot? Yep, he get on my nerves, but it's just something to see that level of dedication. I said, I mean, the opening kickoff is the loudest any game is going to be, unless it's like deep into the game. But
yeah,
man, when they had that catch no catch in 2000, Rob, when I tell you them fans started little boo, they already can't stand Steve Spurrier.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he paid the refs. But you know, that's my favorite memory. Favorite memory.
Well, you know, and then you look at different stadiums. You did not ever play at Sanford Stadium in Athens, but it was 94 and 95 when they did. And I think Florida won those two games 52 and 56-0 or something like that. They were pretty ugly in 94 and 95. But Jacksonville, Florida, the Gator Bowl, 80,000 plus when a split deal. I can remember when Legion Field was split for Auburn and Alabama. Someone was always cheering. Is it like that in Gainesville and Jacksonville when you bring in and Jake Wimberly's going to come on with us, but give us a real quick breakdown of Jacksonville for the Gator Bowl, Ben, having played for Florida, having played in that game. The tailgating it's a giant parking lot, whatever. Watch for the alligators, no pun intended, but that's got to be a pretty cool environment. And it's also the home of 38 Special and Leonard Skinner. It's pretty damn good music comes out of there. The Johns River, incredible bass fishing over around Palatka as well. But lots to talk about there before we go to Jake. I mean, it's pretty cool, isn't it?
It is. I mean, coming over that bridge, I mean, the thing is, I mean, they don't really, you know, they can't really, it's hard to describe it even as being a player because all I saw coming over the bridge was red and black. Even when we get outside, a bunch of red and black, I'm like, these fans, they were like pushing up against the bus, all this other kind of stuff. And it's something to say to where, like, that last ticket, like, okay, you know, it's split down the middle. One time it was controversial. I think Florida got one extra ticket. They had to do a burning ceremony. They had to burn it in front of like a Florida official and, you know, a representation from both sides. It's crazy to hear cheering and booing the whole time. And because you don't realize just how much these games mean until you and we the ones that get the. And in 2002, thank God I was blessed enough to catch the game with a touchdown pass. It's the only night game I think Florida Georgia had. I don't know who decided to move Florida Georgia to you Georgia fans to that night. So you're gonna let the beer run for that long, and then we got to come into the state, pilot to the stadium at like 8:00. Yeah. But it's and being on this side of with the media, I get to see it from the fans aspect of it. Like, people don't when Champ Bailey went into the Hall of Fame. We go to the game. He's in the parking lot. Champ Bailey now. He's in the parking lot with the gold Hall of Fame jacket, and no one cares. People just walking by. Crazy thing I ever seen. I go, that's Champ Bailey right there. So mind you, they was like, that is Champ Bailey. And listen, people just walking by like this. You know what somebody said? He ain't the current Bulldog. I want to see the current Bulldogs. Sorry, Champ. Yeah.
Well, he's from Folkston, Georgia. Jake Wimberly's on with us now. That's a cool story. Jake Wimberly, ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive in Jackson, Mississippi, the bold new city, the capital city. Ben Troupe's on with us right now, ESPN Coastal in Savannah. And Jake, I was telling him about the hourglass. This second part, projecting the 2023 college football playoff and a national champion. Kind of talk about that because I told Ben in the first part of the show, since 1962, only 23 different teams have won a national championship. So there are 131 eligible now. In the BCS era, 98 to 2013, we had 11 different teams win it. And in the college football playoff era, starting in 2014, 9 years, we've had 5 teams win it. Those are some stats, but you've got the story on why.
Well, and I appreciate that. Good to see you guys this morning. Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of scope back through and, numbers are all relative, right? So we can find all kinds of numbers and we can look at this or that. And, this piece that I've done last week, I'll have SEC stuff out this week. I'm hoping to have some Big Ten or Pac-12 stuff as well as we continue to crunch through this stuff and look conference stuff. But when you look at the national picture, what I did is put teams in tiers. So, a bronze tier, which would be a team, like a Texas who has an opportunity if things go well, if Quinn Ewers plays well. There's a lot of factors that go into this. We look at talent, we look at quarterback play, returning, we look at offensive, defensive scoring efficiency because that's
hold that thought.
Sure.
Going to take a quick break. We're going to come back and get into that because I know Ben's got questions and I do too. Jake Wimberly, college football playoff projections right after this. All right, so Jake Wimberly, you were talking about the tiers and all in your college football playoff projection for 2023. So go ahead and finish that. And I know we all want to hear it because it's incredible stuff, Ben, once you read it. And if I haven't sent it to you, I'm going to text it to you right now. Jake?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And again, you got me?
Yeah. You're good. Keep
Okay.
going.
Sorry about that. I had a little hiccup on the internet here. I put these teams into tiers and it's based on several different criteria. And, none of this is exact. These are all, projections, but it's done mathematically. So I've been doing this for a long time, for about 8 years. This is the 8th year of this rollout, really about the 10th year that I've been doing this. I did kind of a couple of years of just pilot testing on this before I released it and didn't look like a complete idiot doing it. But I put them in tiers. Basically tier 3, tier 2, tier 1. So tier 3 would be a team like Texas. We always ask the question, is Texas back? Is Texas back? Well, what can happen? What needs to happen for Texas to get to the college football playoff? Then we get into tier 2. Tier 2 is going to be, a team like a Florida State, who I have projected to win the ACC this year. And of course, tier 1s are going to be your Georgias and Alabamas. But there's a lot that goes into this. Again, a big emphasis on obviously talent and recruiting on a 3-year scale, quarterback play on returning quarterback play. And I have gotten a lot of questions over the last week about, say, for instance, Hendon Hooker, who's down my list around 30, 31, or not Hendon Hooker, excuse me, Joe Milton III, on why he is down the list around 30, 31. It's based really on just returning production. So for instance, Milton 3, we don't have a full season. We've got a small sample size. And then of course, coaching goes into that. Scoring efficiencies go into that. We create, and scheduling is a big, big deal. So who you play, when you play them, who do you play before, who do you play after? There's a lot that goes into it to get to the end of it.
Yeah. Ben?
Jake, when you think about, what I hear is a formula. Because a lot of times, when you talk about these teams, and people ask, well, what goes into? The only people that don't have a formula is the College Football Playoff Committee. They don't have a formula. They just don't. And they're not going to tell you they'll show you who they are in the room and they'll wave, but they ain't going to tell you how they picked. But the quarterback plays and schemes, because what happened is during the Tennessee is incredible. When you think about his scheme, because people think, would it work coming from UCF? How much of these quarterback, I know it's about the quarterback play, but how much is it the scheme of that quarterback that's going to decide who has a chance? Because I don't necessarily know that Georgia had the greatest scheme the last 2 years. They had the best quarterback running that scheme that they did. How much is it you think it's going to be schemes and quarterbacks? Because it seems as though outside of that, 2021 Georgia defenses ain't keeping these offenses out of the end zone anymore.
Jake? Okay. Jake, are you able to hear? You may have it on mute.
One second.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah. Jake, were you able to hear him? Were you able to hear that question? It was a series of questions, and I think it made a lot of sense. Jake, are you there? Able to hear us? Because
there we go.
Yeah, okay.
I think I'm back now.
Okay. Were you able to hear Ben's series of questions? Because it was really good. I like it. It reminded me of Hamilton Berger, the district attorney on Perry Mason, which is on in the other room. It was very good.
Yeah, if I heard it, and of course that was my signal over here breaking up just a little bit. I just had to refresh it. I think
Okay.
Ben was talking about quarterback play and scheme, and how much that comes into play. Ben, I think you nailed it, and I think it doesn't get enough attention on actual quarterback play. If you look at the last few national champions, I mean, you go back to the way Stetson Bennett played the last 2 years. He played out of his mind in that scheme. Trevor Lawrence when he was at Clemson, Tua Tagovailoa coming off the bench for Alabama. Quarterback play is essential. And if you look at the 4 teams that I have in the college football playoff this year, it's not everything is about quarterback play, but that's a big, big deal. For instance, I have Georgia in the college football playoff. That's assuming, all things considering, Georgia's schedule is extremely easy, at least on paper, as far as an SEC schedule goes. There's really only 1 or 2 landmines on that schedule, and they're not that big of a landmine. So I have Georgia in there. You look at Michigan. I have Michigan in the college football playoff. J.J. McCarthy, he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country. The way he played last year, he's coming back. He's one of the more seasoned quarterbacks coming back. And then, of course, there's other factors that come into this. I actually have Notre Dame in the playoff for 2 reasons. One, they've got a big upgrade at quarterback coming in from Wake Forest. He is an absolute star. And you look at Notre Dame's schedule, it sets up right. They get most of their big games at home. Also, we know this about the college football playoff. One thing we do know, if Notre Dame gets to double-digit wins, they're going in the playoff. It happens. It's happened every time. If they get to 11-1, they're going to put the Irish in the playoff. And then the other team is Washington out of the Pac-12. They return one of the best quarterbacks in the country in Michael Penix Jr. They have 2,000-yard receivers coming back. They got a running back transfer from Mississippi State, Dylan Johnson, who is really, really good as far as catching the ball out of the backfield. And their schedule sets up well for them as well. So it is a big, big deal to have that returning quarterback play. I think that's why it's going to hurt Alabama this year. And I think to some degree, Ohio State.
Wow. Washington, they've won a national championship, and they used to be a really, really powerful, consistently good program. I think there was a stretch, Ben and Jake, of 18 of the 19 starting quarterbacks over like a 30-year period at Washington were drafted and played in the NFL. And that's just off the charts good.
It is. And look, Washington has zero room for error, right? So, out in the Pac-12, but the difference in the Pac-12, though, everybody's going to look, say, for instance, at Caleb Williams. They're going to look at USC, and rightfully so. Yeah. Caleb Williams is, you could argue pound for pound the best player in college football. They are going to lead the country probably in offensive scoring efficiency again this year. Defensively last year, they were 108th in defensive scoring efficiency. You cannot make a college football playoff with a scoring efficiency on either side that low. And you look at the fact that Utah has been able to handle them handily the last several years. They're not where they need to be quite yet. This is a typical Lincoln Riley team, though. We saw it at Oklahoma. So, I kind of X those guys out. Same way with Oregon. They lost a lot on the offensive front. I think they returned 1 starter. So, for me, if I'm looking at a different team, it's Washington. But in those tiers, in that article you're referencing, and there is audio that you can listen to. I did a podcast on it as well. Take, for instance, Clemson. Clemson still recruits extremely well. They're inside the top 10. Defensively, they're inside the top 15 in defensive scoring efficiency. But for whatever reason, Dabo's offense has gone kaput the last couple of years. And I don't know that he's going to get that back this year. And they play some high-powered offenses this year. Probably going to get dinged at some point. Florida State, the same thing. You could look at them. Their bookend with big games, against LSU to start the season, Florida to end the season. Can they get to the college football playoff at 11-1? And then the old question is, can we see 2 SEC teams or 2 Big Ten teams? This being the final year of the 4-year playoff, I think it's going to be fun.
And Jake, when you talk about quarterback play, I always look at time and place when I think of quarterbacks. You talk about Michael Penix coming from Indiana, going over there to UW. People don't talk enough about Drake May at UNC. He won the best, might be not going to get the pub that Caleb Williams going to get. But when you look at what he's doing, when you compare the numbers between him and Caleb, one went to USC, got Lincoln Riley, the other one got Mac Browne. How good could Drake May be? And I know that Jordan Travis is going to get most of the headlines with coming off a great year with how dangerous could this UNC team if Drake May can go out there and play to this high level?
Oh, I think he's going to be fantastic. If you look at all the NFL pundits, they have him sitting there right behind Caleb Williams in the pecking order for quarterbacks for next year's draft. I have North Carolina playing for the ACC championship against Florida State, with Florida State winning it. The question for North Carolina is, do they have enough talent yet to, kind of go unscathed through an ACC schedule? One of my good friends over at Pick Six Previews actually put them in the playoff last year. Obviously, that didn't happen. It's a really good football team. And if things fall right for North Carolina, I mean, you could see them in the conversation in November.
All right, now I'm going to throw this. I think possibly if Cade Klubnik comes through at Clemson, guys, another South Lake Carroll or Westlake out of Austin, he came in as a 5-star quarterback. And I don't know if either one of y'all thinks, but that's the real issue is quarterback. After Trevor Lawrence left, DJ Uiagalelei did not get the job done, but they've got talent. You're right, but there's something different, and it's all starting at quarterback. And you go back to Wake Forest when Sam Hartman broke every record he could at Wake Forest. Tyler Buckner now is signed with Alabama. He went down there via the portal. Do y'all think Tyler Buckner was not going to be the quarterback? I mean, they weren't guaranteeing him the job, but Sam Hartman was going to beat him out. How good is Tyler Buckner? I mean, for the first time, Nick Saban has gone to the portal to find a quarterback. What is that a sign of? Just a sign of the world we live in?
I think when you look at it, it means he doesn't feel comfortable with what he has on campus. I mean, I think any time that you see a coach go into the portal, look at Lane Kiffin. I mean, he kind of said it. Hey, look, we need depth and we need more talent in our quarterback room. And call it what you want, maybe a lack of player development, maybe a miss, a calculation on recruiting a player. Maybe they peaked at development. I don't think that they're happy. But guys, I know we're talking national champions right now, but let me pose this question to you. After the weekend where we saw Auburn pick up a transfer portal quarterback from Michigan State, instantly, does Hugh Freeze have a better quarterback room than Nick Saban in the state of Alabama?
I think so. The thing about Hugh Freeze is, obviously, can you get the production out of him? Because the thing is, I mean, take away from, when we talk about what Alabama just had the last, 4 quarterbacks in a row. I mean, you go from Jalen to Tua to Mac to Bryce. I don't think it's going to get with Bryce. And Bryce is the only one, even though Jalen didn't. Jalen won a national championship as a backup to Tua in the second half. Mac went undefeated. Bryce won the Heisman. That's a pretty nice run of quarterbacks. I think what people forget is, man, sometimes it's going to be a drop-off. Like, you're not going to have – Bryce Young was the number 1 player in high school, sat behind Mac was the number 1 player in college for 2 years. I think when you think about Hugh Freeze it's the curious case of Auburn. Every time you think Auburn's going to do bad, they do really, really well. Yeah. Every time you think they're going to do well, they underachieve. If he does have the better quarterback room, but the overall record doesn't show, it's going to be a head scratcher because it's been a long time since Alabama hasn't had a good quarterback. We forget the days of, I like A.J. McCarron and Blake Sims and company, but they weren't Bryce and all these guys. Alabama's going to find a way to get it done. And God forbid they find a quarterback, because this will be a 2023 outlier. This will not happen in 2024, people. So people think Alabama can't recruit quarterbacks. All right. Keep on thinking that. Yes, they can. This is going to be an outlier year. I just think that Auburn might have the better quarterback room, but the overall record is going to show. I think Hugh Freeze is a hell of a coach. But we're going to have to see because, like I said, the days of Ole Miss and Liberty, long gone, man. We welcome you back to the SEC West. And now old Lane Kiffin, he is the one that's the quarterback whisperer these days.
Yeah, Jake, we talked with you a lot about it. You are in Jackson. Let's take a look right now, portal-wise. Lane Kiffin's got to be happy with what he's got. And Mississippi State, God, you've got Will Rogers. How can you not be happy with him? Who played in Brandon, Mississippi. Jake called his games in high school. He does play-by-play high school radio. You ought to get him on your show. The guy knows more about Mississippi than it's kind of scary. He is a civil engineer. He puts some serious research into this stuff. But, I mean, I tell you, Will Rogers is kind of like a stock that's paying a 5 3/4% dividend that's trading at a 25 or 30% discount. I'm buying the hell out of Will Rogers. I mean, I think he's fantastic. How can you not like that guy?
Oh, look, Will is what you need, especially if you're a Mississippi State or an Ole Miss. He's consistent. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot. The big question for Will this year is, what does he look like in this new offense? Mississippi State's got a couple weeks in the season to get it going before they take on LSU in week 3. But he's consistent. He understands football. He comes from a football family. The question I have for them in Starkville is, what does that wide receiver room look like? Because there's been some movement there. Some guys leave the program. Do they have the weapons that he needs to move the football down the field? But I think one of the things that you're going to see, the addition of a couple tight ends in the transfer portal for Mississippi State. Kevin Barbay likes to, play that, package 12, package 11, move a tight end into the formation. They're going to run the football from various positions, something they haven't done since he's been there. So he's not going to have to get the whole thing done himself every play. You're not going to see him throw it 60 times, 70 times moving forward. You may see him throw it 30. He may throw it 35. But you're right. I mean, for Mississippi State this year, especially for Zach Arnett in year 1, he's thankful to have a guy that's played 3 years of SEC football.
Ben.
And Jake, I mean, Stetson Bennett was a guy that obviously, you see what he meant to the University of Georgia, but nobody left. Everybody thought that quarterback room was going to get broken up. Guys were going to leave. They still got everybody intact. I mean, when you think about Georgia, obviously you talk about the schedule. You talk about, I don't know if nobody has a more well-rounded, talented team than Georgia. Who you see coming out of that quarterback room as a starter, and do they give them the same leeway they gave a guy like Stetson Bennett?
That's a great question. Talking with Dan Matthews with the Chuck Oliver Show, who covers Georgia, I think this thing goes into the fall camp. They got Brock Vandegrift to come back. He's going to compete in that fall camp for Georgia. I don't know that initially you're going to see them just cut it loose with whichever quarterback it is. They've got, as we know, Georgia's going to they just grow running backs on trees over there. They come over here to the state of Mississippi, picked up Branson Robinson a few years ago. He's going to be in that rotation. So I think you see Georgia, with one of the better tight ends in the country as well, who will be in the NFL next year, be selective in their passing game until they feel comfortable and lean on that defense and lean on that run game. And for Georgia, again, that schedule, first month, first 6 weeks, 8 weeks is not that taxing for Georgia. Again, to answer your question, I don't think they're going to let whoever wins that job cut it loose. But I mean, as they get into this year and they feel more comfortable, you could see that.
And I look around, y'all are talking about the quarterback situation. I can't remember a school having 4 in a row like Jalen, Tua, Mac Jones, and Bryce Young. And that's a hell of a run. You've got Ty Simpson came in as a 5-star. Jalen Milrose, a 4-star out of Texas, hell of an athlete. He played in the A&M game last year when Bryce Young was out. Of course, that game went down literally to the last play for A&M to try to pull it out. We're going to go to a break and want to come back. I got a couple more questions. I want to get your thoughts on Arkansas with KJ Jefferson. Is he the best quarterback returning in the conference? He's big enough, and Ben, of course, played tight end for Florida and in the NFL 5 years. But the only thing that the Arkansas fans worry about, and I would if I was a coach, worry, the good book says it's a waste of time. It really is, but he runs a lot and he gets beat up some. So therefore he missed a couple of games last year that they could have used him at. But KJ Jefferson, if you look at his numbers, he's one of the most efficient quarterbacks around. And someone said, it may have been you, Ben, someone said on the show recently, he throws as beautiful a deep ball as any quarterback out there. And I want to get y'all's thoughts about him. Be right back after a quick commercial break. Ben Troupe, Jake Wimberly on Sidelines.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House Equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Ben, Jake, this quarterback situation we talked so much about. KJ Jefferson is one, and I just want your thought, Jake, and then Ben, on what he can do for Arkansas, because they've made some serious upgrades with the staff, bringing in Marcus Woodson and Travis Williams on the defensive side. And Arkansas is recruiting really well, but they can't – a lot of those guys, that's for the class of 24. But, Jake, how much better can KJ get?
Look, KJ is fantastic. I actually have him as my second or third. I don't have the list in front of me. I've got Jaden Daniels as the top returning quarterback of the Southeastern Conference on my rankings, but KJ's sitting there at second or third. I think he's second on the list. Love KJ Jefferson. We've talked about him before on your show, Rob. This is a guy that played high school football in the state of Mississippi, kind of flew under the radar right there in North Panola High School in Northwest Mississippi State. I think maybe wanted him as a tight end. Ole Miss kind of flirted with him. Sam Pittman said, heck, we'll go take him. And he came in here and got him. And you look at a guy, the big frame that he has, he can run it. I think you'll see them run it a little more cautiously with him this year. They're not going to, I don't think that running back room up there, again, you talk about deep running back rooms. They got some guys that can get after it. They're as physical a football team as anybody in the Southeastern Conference. They're going to hit you straight in the mouth. The problem with this team this year, their schedule is god awful. I mean, they, host BYU, who's got one of the better quarterbacks in the country as well, in Jordan Hall. And I can't remember the exact stretch, but that stretch from about Texas A&M all the way through mid-October is brutal. I think they play one home game between September 21st all the way to the middle of October. So this could be a better team or the best team that he's had, but this schedule may not lend the results to it.
Ben?
Yeah, I agree. KJ Jefferson is one of those guys to where it's hard to not, 6'3", 240 plus. He's going to be around 600-something yards rushing average. He's right at a little bit over 4 yards, on average. But you got to protect these quarterbacks from themselves. And I understand the pocket breaking down. I understand these called runs. But I need him for all 12 games. If KJ Jefferson is not there, it's going to be really, really hard for Arkansas to stay in these games. And I agree with Jake. They are about it. Sam Pittman, if you ever seen him when he was coaching offensive linemen at Georgia, they're going to be physical. And they don't get enough credit for how well they play in the West. It's brutal. You got LSU every year. You got Texas A&M and Auburn and, in Alabama every year. And as Arkansas is the opposite of Georgia's schedule. As easy as Georgia's schedule is, Arkansas got what Georgia was probably supposed to get. And Arkansas, Sam Pittman first get the head coaching job at Arkansas. His first game out the gate, Georgia. He goes, wait a minute, wait a second. When they had the all SEC schedule, sorry, man, we just put some numbers in some names in the hat, and you got selected to play Kirby Smart. Sam Pittman like, what? So I love KJ Jefferson. I think he's the guy that his upside is through the roof. Not to compare the two, but what Florida tried to do with Anthony Richardson, that's what you do with KJ Jefferson. Like sometimes you abandon what you do on offense because of what he does. Let the run game protect him. He can. He doesn't turn the ball over a lot. 4 or 5 interceptions a year. That's about on his average. Really, really good at what he does. They're gonna have to protect him with the running game. But like I said, the older you get, your body just wearing down. Man, I know he's 21, 22 years old, young, but I always look at how long it takes a quarterback to get off the ground. First game of the year, they popping up. By the 11th game, they just lay there. They tell the O-line to move. Just give me a couple of seconds. That's a 300-pounder laying on me. So Arkansas will go as KJ goes. That's almost every quarterback in college football, but none greater than Arkansas. You can keep him upright. I don't know if the win-loss category going to go in your favor, but they're going to be a hard out, man. You're not just beating up on Arkansas. You're not padding stats with this Razorback team anymore.
Well, I'm sitting there thinking about, the hits that you take as a quarterback. And you mentioned about early on they pop back up and then later on they don't. And you mentioned about another team. One more question, Jake, and we'll let you go. Bobby Petrino, Jimbo Fisher, at A&M. If Jimbo Fisher lets Bobby Petrino do his thing and says, I don't care who gets the credit, as long as he's wearing that, maroon jersey of Texas A&M, that's all I care about. A&M could be significantly improved. Haynes King last year, I never could see him being a great quarterback. But, Weigman, he's pretty damn good, Jake.
He's not bad. He's not bad. You're right. That's the thing. That's what Texas A&M has missed. Last year, their defense was pretty good. I mean, they gave up around 22 points a game. They were in some situational down and distances throughout the season, where they would give up a big play, but they're really a bend and don't break defense. Now, offensively, we know that they were atrocious. If Bobby Petrino is able to get the best out of Connor Wigman, and they've got some pretty good running backs still left on that roster, this could be a team that could get to 8 wins, 9 wins. I don't know that they can challenge for the West. I mean, maybe they can't. Maybe this offense under Bobby Petrino looks very similar to some of the other places we've seen him, even back at Arkansas several years ago. So, yeah, that's going to be the question mark, I think, for Texas A&M. And watch that Week 2 game against Miami down in Coral Gables. That's a big game, not only for Jimbo Fisher. That's a big game for Miami. That coaching staff is kind of under the gun as well. So it'll be interesting to see where Texas A&M goes. I've got them going 8-4, kind of turning the ship back around a little bit, but I don't know that they have enough juice yet to compete for the SEC West.
Ben?
Yeah, Texas A&M is always going to be a head scratcher because they don't lack anything. Talk about facilities, talk about, coordinators, talk about players. Texas A&M, sometimes they just hit, they can't get over that hurdle with themselves. Like they'll lose a game they shouldn't lose. They'll win a game that people didn't see it happening. And I think the thing about Jimbo Fisher is people think that how much he's getting paid is going to equal to what they do on the field. It's rough. Texas A&M, it's rough out there. No one says, hey, I want to play in the SEC West. Players say that. Coaches will take the money. But no one saw LSU being ahead. LSU was ahead of schedule. Alabama did not meet expectations in 2022. Auburn, listen, they go out there and get their head coach. I think Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, people keep living off the fact that he won a national championship a long time ago at Florida State. That ain't Jameis Winston. If you couldn't win with that roster, I question you as a coach. Yeah. I just think now with Texas A&M, you want the expect. Listen, as my friend Kevin will say, a lot of sizzle, but no steak, or however the hell you say it. I mean, whatever. They got really, really good brisket in Texas, really, really good brisket in Dallas. If you think Texas A&M going to be in Atlanta, it will not be for the SEC championship game. It will be because my Falcons probably going to win the Super Bowl. So go ahead.
Oh, Job will be rewarded. Jake, hey, man. Jake, you're welcome to stay on. I know you got a tight schedule, but this is Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. Franz is absolutely amazing like you and Ben. He and Ben are on together a lot with Buddy Martin down in Gainesville. But, Franz, Jake puts together some really, really incredible analytical information about the college football playoff, all kinds of algorithms and all. And I'm going to tell you, Jake, your thoughts about the importance of quarterback play, and you cannot overemphasize it enough. Not having a quarterback is like trying to drive a car on 4 bald tires. It's just not going to work. Or, you're putting diesel into an unleaded gas tank. It's not going to work. It's going to putter and shake. And you see teams, they try to say, well, we got all this talent around him. It doesn't matter. Quarterback is the key because as Coach Dye once said, I coached Bo Jackson. People ask me, who's the best player? Is Cam Newton best player you've ever seen? Bo Jackson. He said, well, Cam touches the ball on every snap. There's a lot to be said for that. I love your information here. When's the next? Well, I know you got to get going, but let people know how they can follow you and what's the next chapter on this looking glass, hourglass into college football, because it's incredible stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Just on Twitter at Jake Wim. That's JKEWIM. Of course, I'm on the air from 3 to 6 Monday through Friday here on ESPN Radio in Jackson. You can stream that on the zone1059.com. And then, what we will have this week, It's going to be some SEC stuff. We're going to kind of move back from the national stuff a little bit and start doing conference-specific stuff. So we'll look into the SEC this week and probably another conference. And then here in a couple of weeks, I'll start rolling out team-by-team previews where we'll look at every game for every team, 130 teams in college football. And that website is cfbhourglass.com.
Yeah, it's incredible stuff. And on your show today, ESPN 105.9, you're talking a lot of Ole Miss, LSU, Mississippi State, everybody. We didn't even get into baseball, but we'll get you back on next week. But I will be listening to that podcast as soon as I get off the air today. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, you bet. I tell you one thing, man, I'm outnumbered here. It's like that TV show, 5 guys and a woman, or 5 women and a guy. He's like, can I say something? Shut up. No, I got Franz Beard, Ben Troupe on here right now. We've broken down a lot of analytical stuff. That's cool stuff, isn't it? I mean, you start looking at, but Ben, you're right. A quarterback gets hit 50, 60 times in a game. Well, you better not be getting hit 50 or 60 times. You're going to get hit a few. You're going to get pressured a lot. But, man, yeah, the slower they are to get up off the ground, the more they're saying, get me some more help. Franz, welcome. How are you this morning?
It's another day in paradise.
That's what he always says, Ben. Well, Gainesville, Florida. Hey, it's going to be 89 up here in Memphis today, starting to now feel like spring. But the mosquitoes aren't here yet, nor is the humidity.
There, huh?
Yeah, well, it's been kind of cool. I mean, but we're now it's starting to settle into, what it's supposed to be in the month of May. Let's talk real quick, Franz. We haven't even gotten into baseball over the weekend. We talk about the grueling grind that's SEC football, but SEC baseball. Number 1 LSU goes on the road. Auburn takes 2 out of 3. They started a new tradition Saturday, launching Independence, the bald eagle, flying around the baseball field before the game. Auburn's now 2-0 with the flight of the eagle. Keep flying that damn eagle. I love it.
It gets the other team so distracted that they can't. They forget they're supposed to play baseball, which that may explain what happened to LSU. Doesn't explain what happened to the Gators in Aggie land. Doesn't explain what happened to South Carolina, which got swept up at Kentucky. Who's going to end up winning the SEC is Arkansas. I hate to say it, but it's probably true. Florida, right now, Florida's playing for a number 1 through 8 national seed. That's what they're playing for. They're playing for a top 4 finish in the SEC so they can get the first day bye and save some pitching. That's what you got to play for right there. You can't, the way the schedule's set up, I wrote about it today and kind of broke it down. Where everybody has some speed bumps there coming along, and it's interesting how when you start looking at how it all works out. Vanderbilt has the Gators, and then they get Arkansas. So they're on the road with the Gators, then they get Arkansas. South Carolina this week is at Arkansas, and then they finish with Tennessee. LSU, everybody's saying, well, LSU's got such an easy road. Well, they just lost 2 out of 3 to Auburn. They got to go, they got Mississippi State this weekend. But, hey, if Mississippi State were to score 1 win, then they finish out the year in Georgia, which has beaten Arkansas in a sweep and so forth. And then you got Kentucky this weekend at Tennessee, and Kentucky's 1 full game out of second place, a half game behind Florida in third. And then you look at what could happen with Tennessee. Is it impossible for Tennessee to win 6 straight? No, they could do it and finish 18-12. What a finish that would be. So you got to right now, you got to start looking at numbers. Florida's got to get to Florida can probably host all the way through with 19, but if they get 20, it's a for sure thing. And that's got to be the key for every school, all the schools in contention, in the SEC. Get to 20 wins and you host all the way through. You get to 18 and you're going to host a regional. Okay, that's almost a lock right there. But if you want to host all the way through, you got to be seeded 1 through 8. And that's going to take 20 SEC wins, I believe, to do it.
Well, you're looking here down the stretch, just the pressure. I don't know if it's the pressure getting to these teams or not, but, you know, Tennessee was considered to be the hottest team. They're here at 12-12. Vanderbilt, you know, 17-7. Florida, 15-9. South Carolina, 14-9. Of course, they had that game they couldn't finish against LSU. Kentucky, 14-10. Tennessee, 12-12. Georgia, 10-14. Missouri, 7-17. But look at the SEC West. Arkansas at 17-7. LSU at 16-7. Alabama, Auburn, and A&M all tied 11-13.
Yeah.
And Ole Miss, defending national champion at 6-18, along with 2 years ago national champion Mississippi State at 6-18.
I know, isn't that something? That Ole Miss and Mississippi State, you know, they're going to be the last two teams, left out, and it's mind-boggling to think that could happen. It really and truly is. It's mind-boggling to think that could happen. But you know, this just goes to show you in the SEC what an advantage home field is, and home field. I don't think it's ever been more pronounced than what it is right now. Vanderbilt gets, has to go on the road to Florida. Florida hits the lights out at home. Not so great on the road, as we found out. Of course, their pitching, I think Kevin O'Sullivan needs to hang out a sign, if you can throw strikes, come talk to me, because they just, Florida's problems are Saturday. Hurst and Waldrop, 6 walks, and Rob, ever since they told him that he has to change his delivery a little bit because he was throwing an illegal pitch, which they didn't notice till the 11th game, which obviously they knew, somebody must have turned him in and said, hey, it's done a slow motion tape or something like that. But it has changed what he's done. He has had 2 bad outings in a row.
I hold those thoughts. We're going to take a quick break. I want to come back and get more into it. But yeah, SEC baseball, there is nowhere to hide. It's all fighting for those regionals right after this.
From Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Franz Beard, keep talking. You were making a lot of sense before the break.
Well, the thing you've got a situation with is that everybody is so much better at home. It's like Georgia is roadkill, but at home they've already swept Arkansas at home. they're really, really good when they play in Athens at Foley Field. Florida does so well, but I have some questions, and that's because Hurston Waldrop, they've noticed a flaw in his delivery, and he's having all kinds of problems throwing strikes. When he does throw strikes, nobody can hit him, but the walks are piling up. And when the problem, it's kind of like, people start aiming, the ball when all of a sudden you can't throw your pitch where you want to, and you're not getting that call that maybe you think you should get. You start aiming the ball, and when you start aiming, bad things happen, and bad things have started happening to him. And Kevin O'Sullivan says of all the pitchers he's ever had, this guy has the most major league stuff of any pitcher he's ever had. When you consider Brady Singer, Alex Faedo, Brian Johnson, and on and on and on. Dane Dunning, all these pitchers he's got, Anthony DeSclafani, all these guys that are in the majors pitching, and he's saying this guy's got the most stuff, and now he can't get anybody out because he's walking everybody. So Florida, and then Caglione, I don't know what's going on with him on the mound, but he's a walk looking for a place to happen, and hits the heck out of it, 27 home runs now. But you got to wonder, is he able to deliver on the mound? Now, he's a better pitcher at home, but by gosh, and that's one of the reasons Florida's got to get a top 8 seed, because then you'd be home for the regional and the super regional. Omaha might be an adventure, but let's face it, you got to win first in Gainesville before you can ever think about Omaha.
Yeah. There's just no easy road to Omaha. We know that. But one thing for sure that we do know is you are rewarded for playing that grueling, tough SEC schedule in a lot of ways. We had 9 or 10 teams from the SEC last year make the NCAA tournament. I think Ole Miss was the last one invited. They end up winning the College World Series. And then this year, of course, they lost Elko and a whole list of players that are, iconic figures in Ole Miss baseball history. And they have struggled this year. They started off struggling, and they've never really gotten their head above water this entire season. And that's just, again, that's life in the SEC. I want to switch to football right now. And something I think I'm seeing happening, the more you think about what's going on with the portal and with NIL, and it's awful easy to get caught up in all the negativity. But I think that it's not going to take much. And you wrote, I believe, 6 months ago, we need some train wrecks, some blow-ups, some meltdowns in the NIL to fix this. And I've been saying that all along. I agree with you. There are only going to be so many people out there, because I do it for a living. And you got a lot of money. You don't waste it. Giving $300,000 or $400,000 to a kid that doesn't hit a lick, in the classroom, doesn't do anything on the field, you're not going to do that very long. Just because those kinds of people have businesses. They would never pay employees like that. You'd have to work for the federal government to be that stupid and incompetent and get paid. You know what I'm saying? You really would.
Exactly.
And so, because you look at, you just look at a lot of elected officials, they're living brain donors, and they're hooked up to the money trough. But in the real world, in the private sector, okay, there's accountability, and you got to do something. So fans, hang in there, man. We are going to work our way through this thing. It's always darkest before dawn. And always that Al Goldman, head of technical market analysis at A.G. Edwards for years, would be on the squawk box saying that the market would be down 500, 800, 1,000 points. He'd say, look, it's always darkest before dawn. And anybody in sales knows that when you're in a slump, you're just that much closer to your next big trade. I really believe that the people pushing the narrative for the NIL are just a bunch of hustlers. And I don't mind, guys you're going to do it. But you know what, Franz? If you're a pre-med major or pre-law, you can't practice medicine. You can't perform heart surgery. You can't practice the law until you finish law school. Okay? Well, these student athletes, they're getting an audition. How about this deal, Franz? Come to the University of Florida. Come to Alabama. Come to University of Memphis. We will pay for everything for the 4 or 5 years you're here. Everything. Medical, food, everything. It's all paid for. And if you do it right, you're going to be networked in with all of our alumni, our fans, and you're going to have opportunities. What did Frank Sinatra say? I've lived the kind of life that most men only dreamed of. Or Elvis, they both sang that song. That's what you get. And now they're saying you're going to get all that, and then we're going to go shake the tin can around like the guy on the corner. We'll work for food, which, by the way, is a franchise opportunity, because if you ever tell those guys, hop in the back of my truck, I need some people to go out there and shovel horse manure for about 10 hours. I pay you $20. And where'd the guy go? That's all I'm saying. It's going to work itself out, because you know why? You and Buddy Martin are right. The fans own college football. And all these people that say, well, they should be getting paid all this money. Well, here's the deal. They already are.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I guarantee is going to happen. Scholarships are going to start being taxed. The moment, NIL is coming this thing, and all of a sudden you got all this money. People are looking at the amount of money coming in. Next thing you know, scholarships will be taxable income. And unfortunately, they've opened a can of worms that's going to trickle into the regular academics. And that's when you're going to have a real blow up, because all of a sudden, here's a kid, for example, at University of North Carolina who gets a Moorhead scholarship, where they write you a check for $25,000 at the start of each semester. And you got to pay your own tuition, room, board, books, and you got to pay it all out of that. But that's your scholarship money. And all of a sudden now $50,000, that's what, the 29% tax bracket? Okay, now all of a sudden $50,000 becomes what? 36,000? What are we talking about here? Now all of a sudden here's a scholarship at the University of Florida, or the Auburn University, that they say that the football scholarship has a net value of $100,000. That's 37% tax bracket. All of a sudden you're being taxed. You got to pay $37,000. What? I'm not working. Yes, you are. You got your scholarship, and you got that NIL money. And the NIL is going to open up this, people may not believe it's true, but we have a creative IRS. There's a wonderful book out. It's called A Law Unto Itself, which everybody ought to read. It was written about 30 years ago, and it's about the IRS and how they get creative. And now I'm not saying that we don't need an internal revenue service, but what I'm saying is they have powers that you don't understand to do things that you don't understand. And this is going to happen. We're going to end up with players as employees, because that's inevitable, because you're going to have guys out there, the left tackle, who may have a little NIL deal that pays him $500 a month. And he's saying, what? I'm blocking for this quarterback who's thrown 19 interceptions, and he's getting $500,000 in NIL money, and I'm getting $500 a month.
Yeah.
Wait a second. And you're going to have the potential of player revolts and things like this. And this is all going to lead to one basic thing, and that is players are going to become employees. Athletic departments, the football, at least the football, is going to become separate from the college itself. And you're going to see Chico's bail bonds on the University of Alabama jerseys, you know. They become the Chico's bail bonds, which, you know, the new viral nickname is Parole Tide.
I tell you what, Franz, you're I see where you're going. Like this mentality. The problem that I have is nobody in the national media has got the backbone or the spine to stand up and call this what it is. It is a bunch of people that are lying their butts off, okay? Trying to say these universities have taken advantage of these student athletes over the years. Hey, it's your damn fault if you don't go to class. You know what? Wimp Sanderson, one of the great Alabama basketball coaches, was asked one time after a game in the SEC tournament, Coach, how many of your basketball players at the University of Alabama have graduated? Coach Sanderson looked at him and said, as many as wanted to. That's on them. People have got to quit feeling sorry for student athletes. I want them, look, if you're going to do something, I'm telling you, I'm in this business. I got 32 years experience. Do an age-banded trust or incentive-based trust. Put that money in a trust. And we hear all these stories about these guys. Well, they can take care of their families. Well, they can do that when they graduate. Okay? You know what? And it's not, don't put that pressure on these 18-year-olds and say they've got to provide, because you know what happens. 15, 20, 30 people. When Elvis Presley died, I remember it as a small boy in Memphis. He had 8 cousins twice removed coming out of the woodwork going, yeah, I knew Elvis. Yeah, I knew him. He's my cousin. BS. Yeah. You're just a gold digger. You're just trying to get some money. That's ridiculous. Okay. And this NIL, people, look, I'll tell you something right now. What's the tax treatment on someone if you give out of your own account, if you write a check for $100,000 to an NIL collective? Because we know that the Tax Reform and Reconciliation Act of February 2017 changed the way tax treatment on donations, skyboxes, luxury suites, donations. There's a lot of minutia in there that the average person doesn't understand.
Yeah.
And the favorite radio station of my clients is WIIFM. If they've got it on their speed dial in their truck or their car, what's in it for me? That's how it works, man. And if they take away or they change the tax treatment on what you give for NIL, that'll shut it down immediately. Because there are not too many people out there that are generous to the point of being stupid. But there are. A few.
Yeah.
Just a few.
Well, Rob, we're in a world of stupidity, period. I hate to say it, but we've all been dropped on our heads too many times as infants, and it's showing now, unfortunately. Yeah. And look at what the NCAA has done. They've gone out and hired Charlie Dean, and the next great idea he has will be the first one he's ever had in his life. We're talking about a guy that I wouldn't say he's clueless, but he's whatever is next. Okay. The guy does not get it. He's been hired for one basic thing. They're going to say, well, let Congress do it. Why am I going to, first things first, the problem with the NCAA is people who have been in charge have no idea what sports are all about. They've never played the game. Maybe they played, in a touch football game with the girls' dorm. Maybe they played in a 3-on-3 pickup basketball game out, down on the concrete courts with people who who one of them may have played JV basketball at one point in time. Charlie Baker played JV basketball. That's his claim to athletic fame. And he's in charge of the NCAA. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have been a great athlete to be in charge, but it helps. It's kind of like the profession I'm in. You don't have to be a really good writer to survive in this business. I'm living proof of that, but it helps, which is why you get guys like Buddy Martin and the great Dan Jenkins and stuff. Those guys could write. I mean, I'm just kind of throwing a few words on a computer screen and hoping it all sticks, but we've got people in charge that haven't a clue, and they're planning to put it into Congress where nobody has a clue. Oh my gosh, this is the fallacy of the NCAA. This is why we have to have, it's time for Fort Sumter. It is time to secede. And I hate to say that, but it's true. And what you're going to end up with is football, at least, will rent the facilities. They won't own them, but they will rent them unless they want to build private facilities.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing that's about to happen. We already have a couple lawsuits claiming that if men are getting X number of Title IX dollars, X number of NIL dollars, based on Title IX, the women have to get the same amount of money. Now, what this does is it reminds me of something that happened down in Brevard County years ago when
hold that thought, friends, because technically you're supposed to give an equal amount, but NIL, again, where are they going with that? Be right back with the answer. All right, friends, you were talking about NIL and we talk about Title IX now. You mean there's actually a case, or I'm sure there's a movement out there to try to say you've got to give an equal amount. Well, you can't tell the fans, but what they could do is go to the collective then and say, well, we're part of this university too. You've got to give 50 cents of every dollar to the female collective. See where you're going with this. I'm not against women's sports. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. That's not it. But again, free market.
Well, here, let me tell you something that happened a few years ago, and this was in Brevard County, Florida. The boosters got together and they put lights on the baseball field. There was a lawsuit. And all of a sudden it said, well, if the boosters put lights on the baseball field for the guys, they have to do the same thing for the women.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the boosters are a private organization, and these boosters were all a bunch of guys who had kids who played on the baseball team.
Yeah.
And why didn't the dads of the softball team get together and do it? Didn't matter. They didn't. But now all of a sudden you have a lawsuit that puts us there. this is where we're heading with this whole thing. And, we're coming, the dark before the dawn that you were talking about. It's getting darker. I mean, we need miners' helmets with the lights on it, and these tactical flashlights they show on TV that can be seen from space. We need those now to guide us through, because we're coming through a really tough time here in college sports. If we don't do something in a hurry, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, it is. And Wes Moore is on with us right now. ESPN 103.7 The Buzz in Little Rock. And Franz, I agree with you totally. We're going to get back into it later. Wes, hog baseball, they've taken over the top of the SEC West. And, we've been talking a lot about there's nowhere to hide in the SEC, especially the SEC West. Is this the best Arkansas team Dave Van Horn has had in the last 6 years?
No, it may be the deepest team, but I guess potentially it had that potential, but all the injuries to this team have knocked it down. I mean, they've already lost their ace, their Friday night starter, Jackson Wiggins, one of their main bullpen guys, and then who turned out to be one of their best bullpen guys was lost for the year last week. So they've got 3 pitchers done for the year. They're just kind of piecing it together. What this team is they just win. I mean, you look at the SEC stats, that Arkansas is not up there at the top in hitting. They're not up there in the top in pitching. They are up there in the top in fielding, but that's it. Well, and they're up there in the top in wins, and that's really what matters. But this team they just play ball, and it's talent-wise, no, it's not one of their best. When the draft comes along, it's not going to look like LSU. They're going to have, 2, 3 top 10 picks. Arkansas doesn't have that. And what's crazy is their number one their leadoff hitter, Tavion Josenberger, and their best hitter, number 3 hitter, Wagner, has been out the last about 4 weeks now, last month, 3-4 weeks. And that's why I say it's one of their deepest teams, because we've already seen what they're able to do pitching-wise with losing 3 good pitchers and replacing them. They've also had to do it with their everyday players. Oh, by the way, Peyton Stovall, their starting second baseman, did not play this past weekend because he's got a sore shoulder. So they had arguably their 3 best hitters out of the lineup against Mississippi State and just swept them.
That's why I asked that question. I mean, and it's because it may not be it's the deepest, but injuries. Every team's got injuries and all like that. But man, they're playing their best baseball at the right time for sure, Wes. Franz,
and it's funny. The way I answer that is because I think talent. When you ask me, is this his best team? But you could be right. Maybe this is the team that finally wins it for Dave Van Horn, and it's not the most talented team. They were the team that had to overcome so much, and they had that it factor, and that it factor, you guys know, wins you a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, when you win a lot of close games, you get closer as a team. Franz Beer, jump in here.
Well, here's the thing that the magic word that you guys have said, and that's team. And the best team isn't always the team with the most talent. Just ask the New York Yankees, who collect more talent every year than anybody else. But last time I checked, it's been a while since they won a World Series. Sometimes the best teams don't have the most talent. Florida 2006 in football wins the national championship, not the most talented team out there, but the best team that was out there. And that's the thing that you got to look for. And Arkansas right now, I would say, is the best team in the SEC. And Wes, I agree with Wes, not the most talented team, but the best team, because they figure it out every week. Okay, some days you got to have the pitching on, some days you got to have the hitting on, some days you got to have them both. But Arkansas is figuring that out. Now, they get South Carolina this weekend, and South Carolina is capable of winning 3 in a row. Then they got to go to Vanderbilt. But just the same, I could see Arkansas going 6-0. I could see Arkansas finishing out out the rest of the season with 6 consecutive wins.
Yeah, Wes, they're scary. That's where I'm coming from, is that they're just mentally probably the best team he's had in the last 6 years.
I would go with that. Yeah, I would go with that. So what they've overcome, that says a lot about this team and his coaching staff. And they just keep plugging guys in. And this past week, Peyton Holt, this kid grew up in Greenwood. He's a football player and a baseball player, obviously. Yeah. Wasn't good enough to play for Arkansas at high school, went the junior college route, came back. And look, he's one of those guys I told you about earlier in the year. He would be starting for a lot of schools, but he can't get on the field because Peyton Stovall is an all-SEC type player. Well,
Wes, hopefully be back with us. Wes, you there? Okay. But Franz, you look around the SEC, and Wes will be back on.
You got me now?
Yeah, we're back.
Okay, sorry about that. No, what I was saying about Peyton Holt, just a great ball player, couldn't get on the field. Now he gets his chance this past weekend due to an injury, and he had a good weekend. I mean, he didn't tear it up, but he's one of those – he's a football player with a baseball that mentality, and he just finds a way to get an inning going. And he played great in the field. What a funny story, I'll tell you real quick. Dave Van Horn was asked about it, but apparently there was a lot of grumbling in the Mississippi State dugout over the weekend. Arkansas just kept making play after play after play in the field, and they're just like, what is going on? I mean, we can't catch a break. And they were upset with how good Arkansas played defensively. And Coach Van Horn, you know how well that made him feel because he is a defensive guy. He is a second baseman. He puts a priority in defense. Guys, that's why Bolton is starting at shortstop. He's hitting under 200. It's a big thing around here. People want to get him replaced because Harold Cole has got a much better bat, and he's okay defensively. Yeah. Dave Van Horn doesn't want okay defensively. He wants a guy that did like Bolton over the weekend and makes just incredible play after incredible play. In fact, he got an error for going deep into the hole, backhand, doesn't even get to plant his feet because the runner's fast, throws it to first and had it there in time, but the throw bounces and Slavens couldn't dig it. And Van Horn says, nobody else gets to that ball. And because he had made that play look simple twice already that weekend, the scorekeeper thought that was an error. He said, anybody else in the country, that's an error. I mean, that's a base hit for the batter. It's not an error on the shortstop, but because he makes that official scorekeeper think, oh, that's an easy play, he gets an error. But anyway, that's this Arkansas team and defense and how much it means to Van Horn.
Hell yeah.
Well, I can tell you one thing. Our Arkansas right now, like I said, you're coming up in a situation where with South Carolina and Vanderbilt to end the regular season, you're looking at anything from 0-6 to 6-6 because personally, I think Arkansas has got a better chance to go 6-6 than they do 0-6. But Vanderbilt's awfully tough at home. South Carolina is capable of doing a lot of things. But again, this is where it's going to come down to having the best team and being resilient and being able to play in adverse circumstances. All I know is the last 2 weeks of the SEC schedule are going to be brutal and funny and fun and intense, all wrapped into one package because you got 7 teams that I think are mortal locks to be in the NCAA. And then you've got 3 teams out there in Alabama, Auburn, and the Aggies that could make it. And you got a Georgia team that, quite frankly, the way they're playing right now, I don't put anything past Georgia. I think Georgia is one of those scary teams that you don't want to play right now, simply because you don't know which team's going to come up because it may be fool's gold because you may beat them 18-2 one night and then come back and they'll 18-2 you the next.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me say this about Georgia. in the last month, Arkansas has swept Tennessee, swept Texas A&M, swept last weekend against Mississippi State. The one series that's missing, they got swept by Georgia. So that tells you a lot about Georgia right there. I watched all three of those games, and I kept, Coach kept saying all week, Van Horn kept saying all week, Georgia's playing better. Georgia's playing better. This is a good ball team. Don't look at their record. And sure enough, man, they look like a good team against Arkansas, and they've kept it going, doing pretty good since then. So I think Georgia's the NCAA tournament team, but I'm probably a little biased since I watched them sweep the Razorbacks.
Well, again, you look around the league, there's nowhere to hide. And if you let your guard down, you can get swept. That's proof right there. And look around. You got South Carolina got swept at Kentucky this past weekend.
Well, here's the thing. You look at Georgia. Georgia closes out the season at home with LSU.
Yeah.
And LSU's had a couple of guys get hurt. And plus we found out, like against Auburn, they have a real hard time with people who throw sliders that bust them on their fists. All that LSU power suddenly gets negated. Funny how an 89-mile-an-hour slider on your fist, how silly it can make you look. And the one thing I say is this: is Georgia. If Goldstein is out for any protracted length of time, Georgia's got a real problem there, because he is their guy that you can march out there and you're getting 6 or 7 strong innings and nobody's going to score on him.
I think one of the biggest things that comes to my mind is LSU. I think those injuries that you've talked about, they've got a great Friday night starter and scheme, but you look at that offense, it's really, really good, but that's it. Their bullpen's a mess. They're still trying to figure out the rest of their weekend rotation. They're not a number one team in my book. There are flaws, severe flaws, to where I think they're going to have a problem. A regional could give them problems if they don't win their first 2 games. If they have to go to 4 or 5 games, that bullpen's a mess for LSU. And honestly, it's the same for Arkansas. Arkansas's thin right now. It is crucial that Arkansas wins those first 2 games in a regional. 3-game series, I feel good about Arkansas. College World Series with the days off, I feel good about Arkansas. That regional could be the toughest test because of the lack of depth in starting pitching for Arkansas right now. That it is very important to win those first 2 games for them.
Yeah, I agree. And we talked about, that Auburn LSU series. Skane is a hell of a pitcher, but after that, their pitchers are good. They're not great. And that's almost across the board in the SEC. So, look, we got a few minutes left. I want to say we live in the greatest country in the history of the world, people. Be proud and act like it, because we have the best guest in the world on Sidelines. And, Wes, let's switch over and talk a little Razorback football right now. With the Razorbacks, any new developments? Also, in the portalization of college football?
No, they're busy in the portal right now. They're after a defensive tackle from Louisiana Tech. They're after an offensive lineman from Tulsa. Both of these guys are multiple-year starters at the lower level, and I get it. These guys want to see if they can play in the SEC, and Arkansas is willing to give them a chance. They're also – it's a crazy story. They got a commitment from a tight end from North Texas, and tight end's a spot where, man, if I'm a good tight end out there, I see an opportunity to come in and play right away, because while Arkansas's got some talented tight end, they're freshmen, true freshmen. Yeah. And they need some guys that have played some snaps in college to come in and play and contribute right away. And this kid from North Texas came in and committed, and then a week later decommitted, and then over the weekend recommitted. So I don't know what's going on with him. I got to talk to some of my buddies that are a little bit closer in recruiting and see what's going on in this young man's head. Probably nobody knows except for him. But anyway, they got a recommitment over the weekend from a tight end, and that was big. They needed that. They also got a linebacker out of Cincinnati last week. That was huge. That provides some depth at linebacker. They feel like they had 3 good linebackers. Well, this gives them a 4th. He started for 2 years at Cincinnati, so that was a good get for Arkansas. So they're using the portal right now just to build depth, get some competition. At the worst, maybe it's not a starter, but it's a guy who provides quality depth and helps you when in practice. But these guys could fool everybody and come in and start right away. And I know they're looking at one more wide receiver. They would like to get maybe a wide receiver that could come in and contribute right away.
Yeah, Wes, we just got a few seconds left. Let people know how they can follow you and what are you talking about on the show today?
Well, we got Bubba Carpenter coming on, and we've got Jace Borfin. Jace is the center fielder for Arkansas right now, and he had another big weekend for the Razorbacks. Had a big home run yesterday. I think he had 2 home runs over the weekend. But anyway, Jace Borfin will be joining us. So we're talking a lot of baseball, little NBA. So it should be a fun Monday. Can't wait to get it started. We start at 10:06. You can listen to us at 1037thebuzz.com. Or you can go and download the Buzz app right now at your Apple Store or the Google Tune Store, and we'll be ready to go here in about 15 minutes.
All right. Hey, Wes, thank you as always. And Franz Beard, GatorBaitMedia.com. Follow him, read him. You'll be wiser. Most often see the face of Christ in the least among us, folks. And again, go out and give with the expectation to get nothing in return. Don't give to get, give to give. Help people out, make a positive difference. Positive end, positive outcome. Until tomorrow, we are out of here. Thank you, everybody.